The Navajo, one of the largest Native American tribes, originally called themselves Dene, meaning the people. This name changed to Navajo after interactions with Spanish settlers, who adapted it from the Tiwa Pueblo word Navajo, meaning farm fields in the valley. Rooted in the Athabascan language family, the Navajo language shares close ties with Apache due to the tribe's migration from Canada and Alaska to the American Southwest in the 15th century. While some Navajo also use Navajo Sign Language and plain sign talk, their clan system remains central, defining relationships through generations and forbidding marriages within one's own or their grandparents' clans to preserve social harmony. Spiritual beliefs in Navajo culture are deeply symbolic, portraying their journey through three colored worlds, the black, blue, and yellow, before reaching the glittering world, their current realm. As Earth people, the Navajo are entrusted by the Holy People to maintain harmony with nature, honoring four sacred mountains as their homeland's boundaries: Blanca Peak, Mount Taylor, the San Francisco Peaks, and Hesperus Mountain. Archaeological records place the Navajos' arrival in the Southwest around 1400 AD. Initially hunter-gatherers, the Navajo learned farming and agricultural techniques from the neighboring Pueblo tribes, growing the Three Sisters crops, corn, beans, and squash, vital for sustenance and cultural traditions. With the arrival of Spanish settlers, the Navajo began herding sheep and goats, transforming these animals into symbols of wealth and trade. Sheep wool woven into blankets became not only a staple of trade, but also an art form, with women crafting blankets that embodied Navajo culture and skill. Horses, introduced by the Spanish, allowed for enhanced mobility and became integral to Navajo ceremonies and livelihoods. Relations with the Pueblo tribes were complex, marked by both trading and conflict. Pueblo people shared knowledge but also guarded traditions due to sporadic raids. Spanish records from the mid-16th century highlight trade exchanges, where the Navajo provided bison meat and hides in exchange for maize and woven goods. By 1620, Spanish chroniclers called them Apache de Navajo, describing people from the Chama region near the San Juan River, and eventually the name Navajo became widespread. During the tumultuous Pueblo Revolt of 1680, many Pueblos sought refuge among the Navajo, fleeing from Spanish oppression. Though the Spanish retook control in 1692, the connection between the two cultures had been firmly established. By the late 18th century, the Navajo migrated to the Four Corners region, establishing their stronghold in Canyon de Chelly, which would become a centerpiece of Navajo life and resilience. Under mounting pressures from all sides, the Spanish pushing from the south, the Comanche from the east, and the Ute from the north, the Navajo found themselves in a difficult position. Known for valuing peace over conflict, the Navajo chose negotiation over warfare when possible. During this period, they thrived, honing skills in jewelry making, livestock raising, and farming. However, in the 1770s, Spanish military expeditions began advancing into the Mount Taylor and Chusca Mountains, sparking intermittent cycles of trade and conflict. Raids occurred on both sides as Navajo bands and Spanish settlers clashed. In 1800, Spanish Governor Fernando Chacon led an offensive with 500 troops into Navajo territory. 20 Navajo leaders responded by seeking peace. Yet, hostilities resumed, with major confrontations occurring in 1804 and 1805. Despite repeated peace treaties, a fragile cycle of raiding, trading, and peacemaking continued among the Navajo, Spaniards, Apache, Comanche, Hopi, and Pueblo peoples until the United States entered the region in 1846. With the onset of the Mexican-American War, the U.S. took control of New Mexico and Arizona, marking a new and tumultuous chapter for the Navajo. Seeking to pacify Navajo raiders, the U.S. government often escalated tensions instead. Navajo leader Narbona, upon learning of the Americans, journeyed to Santa Fe with a small group of elders to assess these newcomers. After observing the strength of the American forces, they decided that forging peaceful relations would be in the tribe's best interest. In November 1846, responding to an invitation from American Captain John Reed, Navajo leaders Narbona, Zarzilla, and Largo met with Colonel Alexander Doniphan and his force of 350 soldiers at Bear Springs. Although the resulting Treaty of Bear Springs symbolized hope, it ultimately failed as the Americans misunderstood that these leaders spoke only for their specific bands, not the entire Navajo Nation. In 1848, the Navajo and the United States signed another treaty, quickly broken, followed by yet another attempt at peace in 1849 at Canyon de Chelly. This agreement permitted forts and trading posts on Navajo land in exchange for promises of support and resources. Yet, even this fragile peace unraveled. After signing, a dispute over a stolen horse led to a tragic incident. American soldiers fired a cannon at the Navajo, resulting in about 20 Navajo deaths, including the mortal wounding of Chief Narbona. The respected elder lived long enough to return to his hogan to say farewell to his family. A beloved leader, Narbona had tirelessly advocated for peace. In 1849, for Navajo medicine men made a pilgrimage to Tohiagli, the meeting place of waters, to consult the holy marks in the sand for guidance. Their prophecies foretold of a distant journey and the loss of many lives, a haunting glimpse into the Navajos' trials to come. Around the same time, the blind Navajo prophet Dene, a respected medicine man known for his sight beyond sight, foresaw troubling times ahead. As American settlers flooded into New Mexico, the Navajo and Mescalero Apache fiercely defended their lands and way of life. In response, the U.S. Army built new forts and launched attacks on native lands. On April 30th, 1860, Navajo leaders Manolito and Barboncito, along with 1,000 warriors, led a bold assault on Fort Defiance, nearly capturing it. In retaliation, the army targeted both the Apache and Navajo, destroying villages, crops, and livestock to subjugate them. In October 1862, Congress authorized Fort Sumner's establishment at Bosque Redondo, a reservation intended to civilize the Apache and Navajo through farming and Christian schooling, supported by irrigation from the Pecos River. While the Mescalero Apache surrendered in 1861, many Navajo resisted until 1863 to 64. Some avoided capture by retreating to the San Juan River, the lands near the Hopi villages, or joining free Apache bands. Then began the Long Walk in spring 1864, a harrowing forced march over 300 miles to Fort Sumner. Roughly 9,000 Navajo men, women, and children endured the brutal journey, suffering from freezing temperatures, disease, and starvation. Many perished along the way, and once at Bosque Redondo, they faced inadequate provisions, disease outbreaks, and crop failures. The barren, isolated land offered little refuge, and raids from settlers and other tribes only worsened their suffering. This infamous march, led by Kit Carson, would forever be remembered by the Navajo as the Long Walk. In 1868, the Treaty of Bosque Redondo was negotiated, permitting the Navajo to return to a reserved portion of their homeland. Although their territory was a fraction of what they once held, they were among the few tribes allowed to go back. The government provided rations and livestock, and the Navajos' resilience shone as they multiplied their sheep and strengthened their economy. Slowly, peace emerged as they rebuilt, trading livestock and crafts with settlers and establishing an economy along the Arizona-New Mexico border. In 1880, the arrival of the railroad brought trade opportunities, but tension with settlers persisted. During the reservation era, assimilation policies forced Navajo children into boarding schools, where they were required to speak English and adopt American customs. The first boarding school opened at Fort Defiance in 1870, followed by others. Harsh discipline, inadequate food, overcrowded dorms, and compulsory manual labor were common. Navajo language and culture were suppressed, and children endured strict, sometimes violent treatment. This persisted until the Merriam Report of 1929 exposed the dire conditions, prompting educational reforms under President Roosevelt. While 2 more boarding schools were built with similar conditions, one evangelical mission school was notably different, promoting a family-like atmosphere with respectful treatment and a Navajo-centered curriculum. This approach showed that cultural respect and humane treatment could coexist with education, offering a glimmer of hope within a challenging history. During the Great Depression and Dust Bowl of the 1930s, the U.S. government, through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, introduced a devastating livestock reduction policy for the Navajo. Officials claimed that the large Navajo herds were worsening land erosion and that reducing livestock numbers was the only solution. Oddly, these meetings were held with Navajo men, despite the fact that sheep were traditionally managed by Navajo women. Initially, the Navajo received below-market payments for their livestock, but soon, federal agents began slaughtering sheep, goats, and horses en masse, leaving carcasses rotting in the fields. This program wiped out over 500,000 sheep and goats and more than 10,000 horses, leading to widespread hunger on the reservation. New sheep breeds introduced by the government struggled to survive in the harsh environment, producing inadequate wool for Navajo weaving. Decades later, in the 1970s, the Navajo Cho Sheep Project was established to revive the original hardy breed, preserving an essential part of Navajo heritage. When the United States entered World War II, Navajo men, honoring their warrior traditions, volunteered in great numbers. Among them were 400 Navajo code talkers, whose language became an unbreakable code on the Pacific Front. After training at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego and Camp Pendleton, they joined Marine combat divisions in the Pacific, relaying critical radio messages that left Japanese forces unable to decipher their words. Many more Navajo served in the war in other capacities, contributing to Native Americans' record-breaking voluntary enlistment rates, with some tribes seeing up to 70% of men enlisting. Their bravery and service earned lasting respect across the nation. In the 20th and 21st centuries, the Navajo Nation has built a resilient economy through traditional practices like sheep herding, weaving, jewelry making, and art trading. The nation has also developed newer industries, including coal and uranium mining, though uranium mining has waned in recent years. The Navajo Nation, with nearly 400,000 enrolled members as of 2021, is the largest federally recognized tribe in the U.S., boasting the largest reservation, more than 27,000 square miles in Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico, spanning the iconic Four Corners region. Thank you for watching the video until the end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any new videos from us. What do you think about today's topic? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found the video helpful, feel free to share it with your friends and family. We hope you had a great time. See you in the next video with even more exciting content. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out.